Good evening, good morning. In this class, it's great if you either have a block, maybe a belt, maybe a towel, maybe a blanket, and I'll show you, options with whatever props you have or don't have. We're gonna do a little bit of hip opening, but also perhaps some forward bends tonight as well. So see if you can focus on softening the forehead. And I'll try to remind you of that theme as we go along. You're just going to lay down and bring the feet together, knees wide. And the bench is quite nice here because it's got some height. You might like that. You might find ease in, let's see, if you had a towel or a blanket, you can just kind of fold it up and then put the feet together. So the easiest part is to put the feet together, knees wide, and then you can scoot your pelvis closer to whatever prop you have. And then just see if you want to press the feet, so you want to have a little activation in the feet. This is also a pose you can do with the belt, but right now we won't worry about the belt. You're just going to have, so you might want to, just look at the knees and try to even out the knees and just notice that. And then just see if you can feel the feet together, opening the inner thigh sockets there. So again, many, many ways that you can do this with the block. The block's nice because the feet just sit right on the block. And if you prefer, you can take your arms into cactus position for a little bit of widening, and this helps remind the whole body to widen, or you can put them out to the side, or you could just bring them down next to you like Shavasana arms. So whatever feels right. And if you do cactus, the biggest problem is you want to try to keep the forearm and the wrist long, and that's why sometimes people need things under their arms to keep that relationship, because you don't want to be flopping the wrists. You want to try to have that length. So if this doesn't work for you because you've got some tightness in the shoulders, you can bring it down, or you can just bring them out to the side, or just down into Shavasana. So wherever you are right now, see if you can really breathe into the lower part, into the belly, into the pelvis, and into those thigh sockets. So when you inhale, the breath moves into those thigh sockets and softens. And of course, if there feels like there's any pressure in the knees, you can also lift the knees a little bit higher if that feels better in your body. And really focus that breath into the belly, the pelvis, and into this joint right here where the thigh sockets are. You can even take your bottom part of your hands and put them here, so you can feel the breath moving into that space. You can inhale. See if you can feel the hands move as you exhale. See if that whole area can really soften and widen. Do a few more rounds of breath. And
And just slowly bring the knees up wherever they are. And this is where it's helpful if you have a belt. If you don't have a belt, you can always use a towel. But with the belt, you can extend the legs up to the ceiling and really open the backs of the legs. So if you're okay in the backs of the knees, like you don't hyperextend your knees, you really want to put that belt or towel around the balls of your feet to open the backs of the legs. If you have hyperextended knees, you can move the belt down to the heels and get a different stretch. So everybody's different. Just don't put the belt into your your arches. You just don't want them there. You want them either on the heels if you've got hyperextended knees, or up on the feet. So up on the balls of the feet. So with the belt on the balls of my feet, I can really engage the upper legs and open the backs of the knees as if they were eyeballs. And whatever you had down, you can move off to the side. So I have the block here. I'm just going to move it off to the side. And then if you don't have a belt, you can always, hold the backs of the legs here. If you have a towel, you can hold a towel on either side. And then the nice thing about the belt is it doesn't, it's pretty firm. It doesn't have like stretchiness like those exercise bands do, although they can come in handy for some things. So now leave the left foot up in the belt, exhale the right leg down. I've got props there, which can be handy. And see if you can really extend through that leg and find the leg on the ground. You might have to lower the upper leg. So we're just going into Supta Padangusthasana. And then you can really press through this right side abdominals here. Couple of breaths there. And then if you want a little more leg stretch, you can lift the forehead towards the shin and bring the shin towards the forehead. And then release that down and inhale that right foot back into the belt. And again, really pressing through the backs of the legs, backs of the knees, and keeping the right foot in the belt. Exhale the left leg down. It's useful to have that prop there so I can really press my foot in there. See, I need to move that bench. So you're opening the back of the other leg. Now in your own practice, if you know you have an easier time in one leg, you might want to start with the easier leg, as the body will go, yeah, I can do this. And then you can bring the leg that's more challenged up. So that's often a nice way to practice where your body feels more at ease because it's done the easy side, and so then it maybe brings the attitude of the ease into the less easy side. And then if you want a little more stretch, lift the forehead towards the shin. And then you can slowly come down and then bring that left leg back into the belt, pressing through the backs of the knees. Now doing this just with the feet up is nice to do if you've got some challenges in your lower back. You can use this pose to really press the feet into the lower back there and maybe really spread that part of your spine into the mat. And then bend the knees and put your belt or your towel, or you were holding your legs, off to the side. And then just place the feet on the floor. Palms can be next to you, or you can interlace them under the head. And then bend the knees into the chest. Extend up to the ceiling. Bend the knees into the chest. Feet on the floor. Inhale. Extend up. Inhale, bend down. And again, if you want more activity, action, you can go quickly, or if you want to really slow it down and really feel into the body, you can do it slowly. And they each have benefits. So maybe you do a couple with quickness, and then maybe you do a few really slowed down. So this will start to get some heat into the body. And as we get some heat into the body, it often allows us to find more space in the body and go into those poses with a little more ease. So the next time you bring your knees in, extend up to the ceiling. And again, you have a couple of choices with the arms, palms next to you, under your head, overhead. And then you're going to slowly open the legs wide. Exhale down. Now you can just come halfway if that's what feels right for you. Or you could come all the way and hover, and then inhale them straight back up. Again, I'll show the variations. So at the top, you open the legs. So we're getting into the inner thighs here. And then exhale, lower them down. But you can, of course, keep them halfway and then bring them up and then come up. So you could do that range of motion, or you can bring them out wide, come down, hover, and then up. Do one more this way. And now we'll do the opposite. So we'll exhale the legs down towards the floor. Again, you can go halfway if you need to. And then when you get towards the floor, you open them wide and you bring them up. Bring them together. Exhale. Down. Inhale. Open wide. Inhale up. Exhale down. Open wide. Inhale up. One more. Exhale down. Open wide. Inhale up. Back together. Bend the knees, feet on the floor. And then you can lift up and just shake out your hips. That feels all right. And then you can roll to your side and come up to all fours. And then just bring the big toes together, knees wide. You can walk the hands forward and really stretch through sit bones towards the heels. Now make sure you still have a little bit of lift there. So in case you were like a cat and needed to pounce, you could. So you don't just drop the body to the floor. You want to extend the sit bones back and really lengthen through the arms here. And then inhale, coming up to all fours. And we're just gonna do a little bit of a vinyasa here where we round the spine into cat pose. Inhale the pelvis into dog pose. Tuck the toes under. Come into downward facing dog. And then inhale. This time you're going to bring the knees down. You got the toes tucked. And then you bring the sit bones back to the heels so that you can open up the insteps. And then inhale, coming up. Place the feet down, rounding the spine into cat tilt. Inhale the spine into dog tilt. Tuck the toes under, coming into downward facing. And then bring the knees down and go into big toes together, knees wide. You can have a couple of breaths here. Inhale, coming up. Exhale into cat. Inhale to dog. Tuck the toes under, come into downward facing dog. And then bring the knees down, keeping the toes tucked. Bring the sit bones back to the heels. And inhale, place the feet down, rounding the cat. Inhale to dog, tucking the toes under to downward facing. Inhale down, big toes together, knees wide. And this time when you come up to all fours, tuck the toes under to downward facing dog. And then slowly walk the hands in and see where you can be as you come into standing forward bend. But you can be a little forward to start with, depending on the backs of your legs. So, and of course, if you have trouble or sciatica or something, you might want to keep a little bend in the knees. But if you can, challenge yourself trying to straighten the legs, heels down, and bring the feet down. And then walk the hands forward again into downward facing dog. And then slowly walk the feet forward and see where you can come to bring the feet forward towards the hands, where you get some stretch in the legs. And then slowly walk those feet back. And then come down into big toes together, knees wide. So if you have trouble in your shoulders, it might be tough to do this, but what we're trying to do is just feel into where the struggle is. Where is the lack of ease when you bring the feet forward or when you walk the hands back? So, and then come into big toes together, knees wide. And then come up again. So we're just sort of collecting data about what the body's like today. So tucking the toes under. Start to walk the hands towards the feet. You can bring the heels down, great. If you can bring the hands in, great. Just try not to hold anything in the neck. but you can also have the hands quite forward if that works for you. Then walk the hands back out into downward facing dog. And then what happens as you bring the feet towards the hands? How is this different? Maybe it's no different, or maybe it's a lot different. And then walk the feet back and go into big toes together, knees wide. And if you have some issues going on the shoulders, go ahead and bring the elbows together, hands up, and you can walk the elbows forward and get a bit of stretch in the shoulders here. And then come up into one more downward dog. And this time you're going to make the choice if you're going to walk the feet forward to the hands or the hands towards the feet. So whichever you choose, do what works for you. And if you're in Uttanasana, if you have a hard time straightening the legs, you can bring the hands up on the thighs and try to straighten the legs. And if you need to bring the back flat there, you can do that. If you're okay in the hamstrings, you can put the fingertips on the floor and drop the head down. Or you can even bring the hands next to the feet and inhale, look forward, and then try to find that length. And then either bend the knees to roll up or hold on to the elbows and let the elbows pull you all the way up to standing. And then release the arms and come into standing in the mat. And we will do a couple of variations with tree and hand to big toe pose. So if you happen to have a belt or a towel, you can have that handy. We won't use it right away, but I'm just putting it here so I know where it is. So stand on your right foot. You can do mirror image if you'd like with me, and then just bring that hands around the knee, trying to find the balance here. See if you can really use your abdominals to keep you here. And then if you can, bring the foot into tree pose. And if you're balanced, you can bring the hands into prayer. And if you're okay with the balance, they can come overhead. And then release the arms and release the foot back down. And come into, I think it's easier to find balance when your feet are parallel hip width. And then lift up the other leg, and you can just bring the hands around the knee, just finding that balance. If you're challenged with tree pose, the other option, of course, is to keep the foot quite low. Then bring that foot around and come into tree pose, hands into prayer. And then if you're stable, you can bring the arms overhead.
arms down. So for the next one, if you have the belt, it's great. If you don't, you can hold under the thigh. So the first stage is you can just bring the hands under the thigh. Actually, we can all do this. If you have the belt, we'll use it on the next pose. Then see if you can extend through the heel, straighten the leg, just like we were doing on the floor earlier. Then you can bend that knee in, place the foot on the floor. Then coming to the other side, you can just, it's like making a stirrup for your thigh here. And then you just press through that heel, opening the back of the leg, keeping the shoulders open and rolling down. And then bend that leg in, foot on the ground. Now, if you have, you can do that last one again, or if you've got the belt, you can bring the belt under the foot, ball of the foot, and then extend it forward. And then you can bend it in, foot on the floor, bring the belt to the other ball of the foot, and then extend forward. And then bend that in, foot on the floor. And then for a little, if you're, you can try this and not, go into the full pose, but you could just try it for the balance. Bring the leg up, holding on to the big toe with the first two fingers and the thumb. And you can stay here if that's as far as you want to go, or you can try to straighten the leg or not, or just halfway. And bend it in and bringing it down. So that's just for fun. And then bring up the other leg. First two fingers and thumb. It's great to have the opposite hand on the hip. And if you want to extend it, you can extend it. Bend it in. Bring it down. Whew. So since that was quite a bit, just bend the knees a little bit and do just a little spinal roll, just to kind of release anything that you might have, any tension you might have felt in that pose. And then come into standing in the middle of your mat. We'll do a couple of more standing poses. So bring the hands in front, and if you feel like jumping, you can step. So you just soften the knees, jump wide. If not, you can just step them wide. And I'll do mirror image. So softening the knees, I'm taking the left foot toe to heel, right foot heel to toe, and then reaching long to come into triangle pose. So you really use those abdominals here. If you're okay in the head and the neck, you can pose slowly. Look up to the top hand. And slowly come up. Bring the feet parallel. Taking the right foot toe to heel, left foot heel to toe. Reaching long, finding the thigh or the shin. Top arm can come up. Lifting those abdominals. And looking at the top hand. And then inhale, slowly come up. Bring the feet parallel, and you can step them back together, or you can jump back into Tadasana. Couple of breaths here. Bring the hands in front and jumping wide. This time you can keep the hands here and pivot all the way around so that the pelvis faces this wall. Then from here, if you want to place the hands on the hips, you can inhale the chest up and then start to come towards halfway. And with the hands on the hips, you can make sure that this outer hip is still lifting and this hip is coming around. See if you can soften your forehead here, no matter how deep you are in the pose. And then inhale, slowly come up. Bring the feet parallel. Bring the arms up again. And this time as you soften the knees, you pivot all the way around. So now, if you want to keep the hands here, you can go forward. Or you can bring the hands on the hips, lift the chest up, and then slowly come towards halfway down if you're okay with that. And then inhale, slowly come up. Bring the feet parallel. Come back to Tadasana for a breath. And just notice your forehead. Are you bringing tension into your face, or are you bringing it more softly in? And then we'll come down to sitting. Come into Dandasana, sitting with the legs. So I'll show you from this angle, and I'll show you from that angle. So we're gonna do easy cross legs. So from this angle, you bend the knees, place the right shin under the left. I'll pivot this direction. So then you bring the hands on the thighs so you can really ground the thighs into the floor. And then you can slowly start to walk the hands forward. Now you don't want to be rounding that thoracic. You want to lift the chest forward. And then you can slowly walk the hands forward. And now check in with that forehead and see if you can really soften that forehead. Inhale, slowly come up. You bring those legs back into Dandasana because that opens the backs of the legs. Nice thing about sitting on a little blanket is I can really press my hands in here and get that lift in the spine. So if you tend to sit back like this, that's when you know you need a little bit more height so that you can pitch yourself forward on those sit bones. And you can just kind of wiggle side to side to really feel those sit bones and where they are. And then bend the knees. So you can feel the sit bones even more when you bend the knees. I can feel mine, maybe. I think most of us can. And then it'll be the opposite leg. So I'm threading my right one behind my left. And then hands go on the thighs. So we're trying to have that lift in the spine as if somebody's pulling us up on the top of the head. And then slowly begin to walk the hands forward. Again, not rounding in the thoracic, but lifting the chest forward. And then really softening that forehead skin. See if you can really soften that forehead skin. Now slowly come up. Again, lift the legs, extend through the heels here. And again, you can wiggle on those sit bones. And then we'll finish with Janusirasana head to knee pose. So bring that right leg back. And if you can, you're trying to bring the top of the foot to the floor, not sticking the foot under the leg. So you do the best you can. It's really trying to get the shin down. That might not work for you. And then we're trying to aim that belly button over that thigh. And if you find it helpful, take that right hand to the outer leg so that you can really get that torso over that leg. If you can hold the foot, you can hold the foot, or you can just bring the hands down. And again, try to lift the chest and soften the forehead. I'll show you from this angle. So. And then inhale, slowly come up. The nice thing about this pose is if you have head support, even a chair, you can do a nice real softening of that forehead skin by just leaning the head here. And then change sides. So come back to Dandasana. And then bring the left leg back. Again, you're trying to bring that shin to the floor. Try to aim the torso over the leg. So both sides are long. You're not shortening in one side. And then inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, lengthen forward. And then inhale, come up. Since we have a little bit of limitation on time, we will head straight into Shavasana. So as you allow the backside, or as much of the backside of the body that's touching the floor, to really fall into gravity, to soften into gravity and be spreading on the floor. And then just notice your forehead skin. Can you feel what is happening in your forehead skin? And can you allow it to really spread wide out into the temples?
to soften around your hairline. And then see if you can notice the skin between the eyebrows. Can you allow that to widen and soften? Because we make a lot of movements in our face, and a lot of it we're not even aware of because we have habits. Also, see if you can feel space between the skin and the viscera and the bones in the forehead. As if that part of your face, or maybe your whole face, is kind of like a balloon. And when you inhale, the air comes in and fills in all that space. And when you exhale, it all softens. And then see if you can soften your face back to your ears and the back of your head. And then just notice if you're having any thoughts. See if you can bring your attention right back here with the breath in the body. Because we live our lives in each moment. So in this moment, you are in Shavasana. Not worrying about the moment that came before or the moment that's coming next. And then slowly begin to deepen your breath. You might need to wiggle your fingers and toes, stretching through your body, finding that movement to reawaken your body. And then you can slowly roll to your side, coming up when you're ready to sitting. And remember, we just have this moment right now. Thank you for being with me, and namaste.